issue. I'm very concerned that you're actually releasing too much industrial land, because the vacancy rate on industrial land has actually halved in the past 15 years and is now lower than retail vacancies. So I'm concerned that you are talking about surplus land, but actually it's not surplus, because small businesses still need to be near centres of population. They still need to be near town centres. I just wonder how much research you've done on this.
Quite a lot of work, and we have got the statistics which are actually in the plan, and we have them available, of what industrial land we have lost and where, so we do know where it is. We have brought in protection to a lot of it. It is of concern. It's of growing concern, and you're absolutely correct in that, and in the planning department there is concern about this, because we cannot lose too much industrial space, but of course a lot of industrial space is also very poorly used. It's very spread out, there's a lot of wasted space, so it is very much about mixed use. It's very much about trying to tighten those areas up, trying to get maximum productivity out of those areas.
Well, let me give you an example, because in the section on the Olympic Park, there's a comment about developing a high-quality media and creative industry cluster at Hackney Wick. Now, I've been to Hackney Wick, and in fact, there's a very well-developed industrial, small industry complex, really functioning very well. There's a brewer, a scaffolding yard, a plumbing supplier, gas suppliers. All these businesses actually work together and they need each other. What's happening at Hackney Wick is they're being pushed out, which means longer journey times, relocation costs and so on. It seems to me that you're actually replacing something that shouldn't be replaced, that's actually vital for not only the community, because it's local jobs, but also just for London's infrastructure, business infrastructure.
Well, two points on that, if I may. The first one is we have just completed the work on the city fringe opportunity area, which has clearly identified those parts of the city fringe which need to be protected for commercial industrial use, and those parts which we think are suitable for housing. And we have laid all that out. It's quite a comprehensive document, and that's being published at the moment. The second thing is we have, because of the concerns you're raising and others have raised, we have started an industrial land review. So we are starting to look again at what industrial land we've got where, and what policies we may need to change as a result of that.
Well, that's very promising. When's that going to be...
Well, the work has started. I'm not quite sure. When do you reckon completion?
We'll finish at the end of this year.
End of this year. It just seems to me that you've used this word surplus without any sense of really where you're going. Why have you done this already? You should have done the review of industrial land before you decided what was surplus and what wasn't.
Firstly, it's the boroughs that work with us on this, and those boroughs have identified that land as being suitable for redevelopment. That's the first point. Secondly, there have been major changes in the locations for industrial premises, and we've tried to reflect those changes that have taken place in the market. As I did say earlier, there is a lot of industrial land at the moment which has very low usage, and it is possible to relocate that and move that. But anyway, this will all be picked up in the review.
I have visited other places where there's huge pressure on industrial complexes. And actually, in Charlton, for example, there's a block of flats being put next to an aggregate yard. Now, you can just see that aggregate yard is fantastic. It's got access from the river, a rail head, so a lot of the aggregate comes without going on our roads, which I'm sure we all agree is a good thing. And yet, you can just imagine the people in those flats aren't going to want to live next to an aggregate yard for very long, with the noise and the dirt. I mean, one of the things about industrial land is that, to some extent, you do need a bit of space. Simply because I accept your underused bit, but the argument is not to move everybody and build housing. It's actually to encourage people to go into that industrial area.
Yeah. I mean, there is obviously a problem along the river. We've got a policy of protected wharfs. So we have identified those wharfs where we are going to continue to use them. Unfortunately, land along the river is actually very much sought after. There is a lot of development taking place adjacent to those wharfs. The buildings that go adjacent to those wharfs are going to have to be designed to live next door to aggregates. We've also got planning proposals in at the moment to deck over wharfs so that housing will go on top of large-scale decking. So the market is changing because the river is such a big economic driver. Could I just pick up, areas where we have protected, such as a really good one is Park Royal, where we've been absolutely clear that we don't want residential entering into the core Park Royal area. We've identified bits around the edges which could go. But by and large, that big industrial, and Park Royal is our biggest single industrial area in London, and that is very much protected.
It's great, but we are losing other areas, and that's a very big problem. I don't know if you know, but the London Plan actually predicts by 2060 that there will be no more industry in London. That's the trend in the London Plan. And that seems to be absolutely mad. We're always going to need some sort of industry, if only because it's jobs. And in fact, the release of land, industrial land, has been at twice the benchmark level, which means it's potentially going faster than you even expected. And the targets are underpinned by an employment model which assumes that all these jobs will fall to zero. There will be 0 jobs in industry by 2060. Does that sound sensible? When you look again at those trends and reassess the release of what you're calling surplus industrial land?
Well, firstly, we have started that industrial review, which I mentioned.
Well,
secondly, we do protect sill land, and that is clearly in the London Plan, and that's all identified in the London Plan, and that is fully protected. And so those protections are in place.
But I think it's all happening somehow I feel you've just taken your eye off the ball on this, and you've made all sorts of assumptions that actually they're not only invalid, but they're also not very good for London. And, industrial land needs more protection than you appear to be giving it at the moment. I've got a report. I will bring it up to you the minute I publish it.
All I was going to say, and I welcome to see your report, but it is about balance. On the one hand, we need to get more housing land into London.
Nobody doubts that.
And on
but
the
you
other,
need jobs as well.
The Greens are now out of time.